Hey, what's up, everybody? I want to welcome you to another episode of the Dreamers Pro Daily Recap, where we give you a recap of all of the hot topics that we covered that day. You can catch them in their long format and also catch it fully streaming for free on Apple Podcasts. Let's get into one of the most trending topics right now, and that was something that took place yesterday on ESPN First Take, right? It's a very viral video. It has close to 500,000 views yesterday. So apparently on the panel, they had Stephen A. Smith, Shannon Sharpe, and Dan Orlovsky, and they were reacting to some comments that were made by their colleagues at ESPN by Kirk Herbert Streets, I hope I got his name right, and Ryan Days. Kirk Herbert Streets, who works at ESPN, about Ryan Days, who is a future head coach for the Ohio State Buckeyes football program. So they were talking about that. And essentially what happened was ESPN was able to lift some audio during a live game of these guys basically taking a shot at ESPN, basically saying people on First Take are wanting people to get fired. So they presented the topic that way. That's the background. Then they start off the show, and then they start off the show with Stephen A. Smith, and Stephen A. Smith goes, no, hold on. I'm going to go first. It's not First Take that said he should get fired. It's I said that the head coach, who I think goes by the name of Ryan Days, should get fired. So Stephen A. Smith goes on his rant. He says what he has to say or whatever it is. And then he hands the floor over to Shannon Sharpe. And the funniest thing was, while Stephen A. Smith was speaking, Shannon Sharpe was there smiling. So I got no impression that Shannon Sharpe was fuming. But boy, oh boy, were we all wrong. Because Shannon Sharpe was there fuming in his seat. He was pissed off. So when Stephen A. Smith passed the mic to Shannon Sharpe let off this salvo that even at the end has Stephen A. Smith like, yo, what's going on? He was like, if y'all try this again, there ain't enough people at ESPN that's going to be able to keep me in check. And I was like, yo, son, what is going on here right now? So what we want to do is going to play what Shannon had to say. It's very short, about a minute and a half or so, what he had to say. And then we're going to come back and react to his comments. Take a listen to what Shannon Sharpe had to say here.
But during their win against Tennessee, Kirk Herbstreit shared his thoughts on Ryan Day potentially being on the hot seat. Take a listen.
When you hear pundits on this network and other places talk about that with certainty, it's nonsense, frankly. I mean, the public doesn't pull the trigger and get rid of the coach.
No.
The administrators do, and they're behind them.
Yeah. First Take tried to fire him. They thought he was done. So I'll be excited to see what they talk about on Monday after this performance. They had him out. They're trying to find replacements. But here he is. He's still got his hat on. He's still coaching.
Go ahead, Shannon.
Stephen, I'm going to let it slide. I'm going to be a good teammate. I'm going to let it slide. Everybody's at ESPN, because had you not taken the route you taken, I would have lit their ass up. But I'm going to let it slide. You know what, guys? Congratulations, Ohio State. You won the game. But, hey, if we're going to be on the same team, if we're going to work for the same network, don't do that. Kurt, Chris Fowler, I promise you, if you ever mention anything, any platform that I'm on again and talking about, I wonder what they're going to say in negativity, I promise you, ESPN ain't got enough bosses to keep me off y'all for what I'm going to say. So I'm going to let y'all slide today. I'm going to turn it over to D.O. before I get myself in trouble. But don't play with me. Go ahead, D.O.
Damn.
I got to follow?
Go ahead.
Man.
So what are my thoughts on this? First of all, I'm going to admit, I don't know what the hell they were fighting over in terms of what's going on with the, what's the team, the Ohio State Buckeyes football. I don't watch any college sports at all. It doesn't interest me in any way. I prefer watching the professional leagues. That's just me. Some people follow it, are avid followers of it. So I'm not one of them, and I don't know what the hell they were referring to in terms of the details and the intricacies of it. However, what stood out to me was how Shannon Sharpe really comported himself there and some of the things that he said. Like, that's the part that's surprising. For Shannon to go out there and say, look, they ain't nobody. If y'all you lucky that Stephen A. Smith took the route that he took by taking a high road, because had he not, I would have went off on here to the point where I could have probably got myself fired, to the point where he's like, there ain't enough bosses at ESPN that's going to check me. And I'm like, yo, what's going on here? And Shannon seems to have this thing about him where he can go viral, right? Shannon has this ability to go viral with things like this. It happened a few times on Undisputed, but it happens organically. And I want to say this. I think it's a talent of his. I do believe this. Now, some of you may be thinking I'm pulling your legs. No. I'm being serious. It's a talent, right? Because Shannon has this ability to make headlines and make the news. And to me, I think it speaks to his talent, his charisma, his hard work, his overall likability. Like, it's natural. You don't get any sense that what he did was contrived or anything like that. And some people may say, oh, it's a little bit brazen, it's a little bit this, it's a little bit that. Yeah, I get that, and I can understand that. But nevertheless, he knows how to move the needle. And I think that that's something that Stephen A. Smith was looking for in a Shannon Sharpe. Max Kellerman couldn't do it to the way that Shannon Sharpe does. Max Kellerman he did it a few times with the cliff theory and all of that. But Shannon goes viral. Like, he can go viral. And I think that beyond its edginess, and you put the edginess aside, I think it's something that works for companies like ESPN, because when you have a particular talent, an on-air talent, front-facing talent that can go viral and create headlines, well, it just brings more eyeballs and attention to what you're doing. So I think it's a talent of his. I think there are a lot of people out there that try to do it that just can't really pull it off. A lot of people try to do it, and it's a talent. It may seem subtle. You may not even notice that it's happening, but I think it's happening. Do I think ESPN would get rid of Shannon Sharpe? Hell no. Why? They didn't get rid of him over that video, that audio, whatever it is. So they're gonna kick him out the door over something like this? Hell no. I think ESPN understands that Shannon Sharpe is wildly entertaining and popular, and he's like a magnet. And I think it's a mistake that FS1 made by letting this guy go. I'm just sorry. You got to find a way to keep a talent like this at your network, because if Shannon Sharpe has stayed at FS1, there's no doubt about it. Absolutely no doubt about it. He would have been the face of that network, and it ain't even close. They're trying to make Nick Wright the face of FS1. If Shannon Sharpe still remained on board, he would have been the face of the network. Like, let's just call it like it is what it is, right? Because even though some of those guys can do their jobs really well on TV, none of them are what Shannon Sharpe is off TV in the independent space. And when you juxtapose those two things, those two attributes that Shannon has and those two things that he has going for him, he would have easily been the face. So I think when you have talents like this, you have to give them some leeway. And hell, if they allow Pat McAfee to say what he says on ESPN, I don't see why anything Shannon Sharpe said or says will be controversial to the point where they will cut ties with him. Pat McAfee is gone to some of the ESPN executives. So, no. I think that was a viral moment. Shannon knows how to do it, but I was just surprised at how bold he was. So that's what really stood out to me. The intricacies of the story don't really appeal to me whatsoever. So, and by the way, we're going to be launching an exclusive Dreamers Pro community very, very soon. And if you want to be a part of it to ensure that you receive a one-time offer, please make sure you join the waiting list. We have over 300 people signed up already. So if you want to receive that one-time offer, only the people on the waiting list, please make sure you go ahead and do so. Let's get into this story. Given the fact that Christmas is tomorrow, it means that all of us are pretty much in vacation mode. At least I was. So it would explain why I was totally confused at what happened last night. So last night, originally, I thought there were NBA games. Okay, and I watched my games on League Pass. So when I went to the website, it does this kind of weird thing on the left-hand side. If you click the days, it'll give you the schedule. So it was showing no games. And I don't know what in my mind thought that yesterday was the 24th. So I saw no games. Then when I woke up this morning and I checked my phone, I started seeing all of these games. And as a matter of fact, before I went to bed, I was getting these notifications from NBA, the app. And I'm like, why am I getting notifications about this score and that score? I thought there was no game, so it didn't click. I woke up this morning just to find out that, as a matter of fact, there were a bunch of games being played last night. Like a bunch of games. The Clippers played, the Phoenix Suns played, the Utah Jazz, everybody played. And One of those teams that also played was the Los Angeles Lakers against the Detroit Pistons. Now, I was aware that the Lakers were going to be playing the Pistons at some point during this period, but it totally slipped my mind, right? It totally slipped my mind. So apparently they did play. Now, if you know anything about these two teams, they already faced each other earlier this season, but the Lakers somehow lost to the team that they were way more talented than. So I woke up, I saw the highlights, and apparently the Lakers ended up losing 114 to 117. I looked at the box score. I just take a quick peep here. LeBron had a good game based off of what I saw. I'm looking at the box score. He had 28 points, 11 rebounds, 11 assists. So he had a triple-double himself. Rui Hachimura scored 10 points. Anthony Davis scored 19 points, and Max Christie. So all the Lakers starters, based on what I'm seeing in Austin Reeves, they all scored at least double digits in the game. D'Angelo Russell came off the bench with 5. Gabe Benson had 9. Cam Reddish had 7. And Dalton Connect had 7 points. But nevertheless, it wasn't enough for them to win the game. And then J.J. Redick drew up a play for LeBron, which is supposed to be like a game-tying 3. He ended up missing. It was a little bit short, and it bounced off the rim or whatever, and they lost the game. But that wasn't really the part. So I then jumped on YouTube, and the very first person I saw was J.J. Redick looking absolutely dejected, and we want to put up a still of his face on the House of Highlights thumbnail, and I was like, I got to see what this guy said, because it looked like this dude is going through an emotional breakdown here. So what we want to do now is we're going to play exactly what J.J. had to say in the post-game interview, and I'm going to come back and continue on the show. Take a listen to that there.
Why they were happening throughout the game.
Yeah, I mean, we knew ahead of time that they were going to shock or blitz at times. No, I'm not sure why we were so surprised by that. Then a number of them were playing in tight spaces, and the number of them were just, dribbling off the ball for a foot and dribbling the ball out of bounds, passing to Malik Beasley so he can make a 3. They capitalize every time we made a mistake.
JJ, earlier in the season, you guys had kind of mentioned the Detroit loss in Detroit as an example of like maybe not taking things as seriously as you could have in that matchup until you guys had that late rally in that game. From like a progress perspective, how much progress have you seen from the group since then, and how much of it might just be it's a young athletic team that plays really physically and has certain advantages?
Yeah, no, I know what you're getting at, or what you're trying to ask, rather. I think we've had a lot of progress. I think outside of the turnovers, we played a really good offensive basketball game, and I don't know. We'll get the report later tonight. I don't know in terms of what our half court defense looked like tonight in terms of points per possession. I don't know what their sort of expected shot value was on all those mid-range shots they took. But we, for the most part, executed our coverage as well. We executed our reds well. The only thing we didn't do at times well was our blues in the post against Cunningham and Harris. But defensively, I thought we had the right intent, and offensively, I think we tried to play the right way. We were ready to play tonight. It's very hard to win in this league if you have you give the other team 15 more scoring opportunities than you did. It's hard to win.
JJ, kind of along those lines with what Jovan asked. Detroit isn't the first kind of team that fits this sort of size, athleticism, strength sort of profile. Do you feel that forced you guys into some of those mistakes that led to that disparity? And then
our guys don't want to give the ball away. I know that.
And how do you counteract it? Because you will see other teams that play this way. There's teams you haven't played yet this season that do it a lot. How can you guys match physicality and strength and stuff like that if that isn't necessarily inherently?
We've done it before. You point to the first Minnesota game. We did it. Didn't do it the next time we played Minnesota both times, but we've done it before.
So you heard what JJ Redick had to say, right? If you saw the post-game interview, you would see that this dude looked totally dejected there. And here's something that I'm noticing. I'm noticing that JJ's like two different people when his team wins and loses. When the Lakers win, he's all smiles and all of that. But when they lose, it looks like the sky is falling. Now, obviously, it is a natural emotion that if you lose, you're not going to feel good. Obviously, you're not going to be in a good mood. We all get that. The thing, however, is the optics of it. And I think optics are important. It really, really is, especially when you're in a leadership position and you're supposed to be leading people. When things go wrong, you have to maintain this kind of balanced attitude and demeanor. Because whenever you're panicking or looking dejected, and it doesn't help anybody. It really doesn't help anybody. So being negative and all that doesn't work. And I'm sure the players looking at their coach's face, that doesn't help. Number two, I think a thing that's also important is not to wear your emotions on your sleeve. Meaning, if the team does well, I don't think you need to be up there smiling and cheesing through every interview. And if they do poorly, you don't need to be up there sulking. You just need to be a little bit more balanced. Why? Because you understand it's a process. You understand it's a process. But if you're going to be going through all of these emotional roller coasters from game to game, bro, you're going to have JJ Redick's going to have a head full of white hair at the end of the season. I agree, is going to really deal with him. And I think that he's going through this as a rookie coach. And it's something that obviously he's going to have to learn as he continues to coach in the NBA, right? Losses are part of the game. Blown assignments on defense is part of the game. Plays that fall apart that you think you ran properly in practice and you executed you communicated the message to your players on the sideline. They go out there and totally botch it up. That also happens. Losing also happens. Now, why do I say it's embarrassing? Okay, because we put that in the title. It is embarrassing, and I'll tell you why. Because the Lakers, from a talent standpoint, are overwhelmingly more talented than the Detroit Pistons. That's number one. Number two, if you look at their standings, the Detroit Pistons aren't very good. I think they're the number 10th seed last time I checked in the Eastern Conference. The Pistons aren't any good, man. They aren't any good. If I look, okay, yeah, let me see if I can pull up the standings here. They're the number 10th seed. They have a 13-17 record, so they're 4 games under 500. The Lakers, who are number 7 in the Western Conference, have a 16-13 record, but I think this record is very deceptive. It's very, very deceptive. I think the Lakers are actually a lot worse than their record is reflecting because they've been playing some really bad teams. Think about this. The last 2 wins that they got were against the Kings, who are the number 12 seed in the Western Conference, and they're 4 games under 500. Then I think they played against the Portland Trail. So the Lakers aren't really playing any real good competition right now, if I'm being honest with you. They're not. So games like this are games that you're meant to win. And would you believe it? They're going to be playing against the Warriors, and guess who else they're playing against? The Kings again. I don't know who made the Lakers schedule. They're playing the Kings, they're going to play the Cavs, and they're going to play the Trailblazers, and they're not playing any real teams. Then they're going to play the Hawks, the Rockets, the Mavs, the Hornets, the Spurs, but they got a really, really, really easy schedule this season. So if I'm a Laker fan and I'm looking at them as the 7th seed in the Western Conference, I would not be beating my chest or hollering and screaming. They're a bad team. Just trust me. They're not playing any good teams at all. And by the way, we're going to be launching an exclusive Dreamers Pro community very, very soon. And if you want to be a part of it to ensure that you receive a one-time offer, please make sure you join the waiting list. We have over 300 people signed up already. So if you want to receive that one-time offer, only the people on the waiting list, please make sure you go ahead and do so. I tuned across a segment from Gil's Arena that I clicked off about 30 seconds into it, where they were talking about NBA ratings. And they were essentially saying that it's a figment of our imaginations, that it's really not happening. It's not a big deal. Why? Because they were looking at the TV deals that the NBA was able to garner by 3x in their deal that they used to have, which was $25 billion and $76 billion. So they're like, well, look, they just got this $76 billion deal. So clearly the league is moving in the right direction. People are just out here looking for something to talk about and blah, 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 blah. I'm like, okay. So what happened? This morning, I was combing through the internet and I came across a pretty interesting article from Fadeaway World. And it says, LeBron James remains most viewed NBA player on social media. Kevin Durant not even in the top 10. continues on. LeBron James continued to prove why he's not only an enduring basketball icon, but also a social media phenomenon. In the 2024-25 season, LeBron is the most viewed NBA player on social media, racked up an incredible 623 million views across platforms. Even at nearly 40 years old, James' unparalleled star power shows no signs of waning, with his digital presence eclipsing younger stars and cementing his position as the league's most influential figure. So it has the tally here. LeBron comes in with 623 million views, Ja Morant 538, Victor Wembanyama 402 million, Stephen Curry 350 million, LaMelo Ball 237 million, Giannis Antetokounmpo 227 million, Klay Thompson 189, Nikola Jokic 182, and Jason Tatum 185. Now, when they say across social media platforms, it was actually posted by NBA Central. What particular platforms are they talking about? I'm not 100% sure, right? So when people like folks on Gil's Arena and others will hear this kind of information, they'll be like, oh man, the NBA is going to be a good place. Good place, you see? They're getting all these views. And I'm like, yeah, they're getting views. But the question is, are these the important views? And then I started to do a little bit more digging. And what I saw, or rather what I unearthed, absolutely floored me. But according to the Morning Brew, NBA ratings have flopped this season. Through Saturday, viewership was down 19%. This time last year across ABC, ESPN, TNT, and down 25% with NBA TV included, per Sports Media Watch. And I'm like, hold on a second here. We have a disconnect. Okay, so let's get into this article. It says, NBA ratings have plunged. Are three-pointers to blame? It continues on. If there's a fall in the forest and no one is around to watch it, does it still make a sound? NBA ratings have flopped this season. Through Saturday, viewership was down 19% from this time last year across ABC, ESPN, and TNT, and down 25% with NBA TV included, per Sports Media Watch. Many critics blame the league's infatuation with three-pointers. Teams are hoisting up a record 37.5 attempts per game this season, about 15 more than the average a decade ago. That's a result of teams embracing analytics, which has shown how chucking up threes is a more efficient strategy than attempting shots inside the arc. Some NBA legends think that's created homogenized product. We're looking at the same thing, Hall of Famer Shaquille O'Neal said about the decline in viewership. NBA Adam Silver brushed off the downturn, pointing to the league having its highest attendance during the past 2 years and strong performance on social media. And the NBA isn't alone. Men's and women's college basketball ratings are down 21% and 38% this year, respectively. The NHL is down 28%, and even college football lost viewers. And then the article then goes on to say a few other things. I want to double back here because this is the most important part. Let me see if I can pull this up. If you hear any noise, in the background, that's my daughter screaming and having a good old time downstairs with her mom. She's already started celebrating Christmas already. She's like, y'all can keep working, man. I'm out here living my best life. So she's having a good time there herself. So I want to get back to that original figure because people seem to be looking at the wrong things here. All right. People are spending time talking about, the social media viewership and this one and that one and that one, when instead they need to look at what revenue source or what accounts for the majority of the NBA's revenue. That's what people need to really pay attention to, and most people are not really talking about that. The fact of the matter is, this $76 billion deal that the NBA just signed over the next, I think, 11 years is coming from networks and streaming platforms that are going to be paying a crazy amount of money for these games. I think Amazon is one of them. NBC Universal is another one. You have ESPN, which is another one, that are going to be paying for these TV rights. ESPN is paying about $2.8 billion per annum. 2.8 billion per annum. And all the other networks are going to be paying whatever the figure is that then amounts to the 76 billion over 10 years. That's the number. Now, why is that number important? That number is important is because that's where they get most of their money from. So brushing off the numbers on TNT, ESPN, and other NBA TV, to me, is like, it's almost like as if we're sticking our heads in the sand. Talking about social media growth and all of that is great. But is that really where you're getting your money? Is that what's really paying the bills? Let's look at it this way. Imagine if you're a content creator, okay? Let's say you talk about basketball. All right. And let's say you get 1 million views a month on your YouTube channel. You have an Instagram account as well, right? And let's say you're on Twitter. And let's say you get 1 million views a month on YouTube. YouTube pays you whatever it pays you. Then you have sponsors. And the sponsors say, hey, look, I'm going to pay you for 800,000 of those views. Okay? And we're going to pay you a certain amount of money for those 800,000 views. Fantastic. Then you have your Instagram account. Then you get to the end of the year, right? And you have all of these views compiled. And you're like, well, I got 7 million views on YouTube, although I was supposed to get you 12 million, which means that I'm down on the views I was supposed to get per month for the contract we signed. But I got some good news for you. I got some great news for you. We got 25 million views on Instagram. And then the sponsors are going to look at you and say, I'm not paying you for Instagram views. I'm not paying you for Instagram views. I'm paying you for the views on YouTube. Now we're going to just say YouTube is TV to make the thing work. And you're like, but look at my YouTube, look at my Instagram. He's like, yeah, but I'm not paying you for that. Right? I'm not paying you for that. So that's, you bragging about that really means nothing to me. Yeah, it's nice that more people saw you, but I paid you for the advertisements that are going to be ran on your channel, or in this case, TV. So trying to say that those numbers don't matter after these guys just 3x'd their deal, and the viewership numbers are down 25% just this year, how are you then going to be able to hit your marks in year 11 when you're already suffering in year 1? How is that going to work? Number one. Number two, look at it this way. If NBA games were averaging, let's say, 2 million viewers per game, right? And they took this data to Amazon, ESPN, NBC, whomever, and they say, look, we have 82 games. And this is what they do, actually. The NBA breaks down its inventory, which is what? 82 games, right? So the NBA has an inventory of 82 regular season games, and has an inventory of play-in games, and it has an inventory of playoff games, and it has an inventory of NBA Finals games. And they sell all of these games. They just created the in-season tournament as another way to raise revenue. So anyway, the NBA then sold a certain amount of games to certain companies. We already did the breakdown, a few months ago. So like ESPN is going to get some games, TNT is going to get some finals games, and they broke it down this way. And then what they ended up doing was they created a bidding war against these guys. So they went to Amazon and said, hey, look, ESPN is paying us so-and-so amount, right? So if you want 20 games, they're paying us this amount, you got to pay this amount. And they just created this bidding war against these guys, and they were able to inflate the numbers. So they get this deal, but then the problem is the viewership numbers are dipping. They're dipping. So the NBA is in serious trouble because they're not going to be able to hit their marks. And I'm sure for them to 3x their deal, there must have been something that they told them, apart from the fact of artificially inflating their numbers by creating a bidding war over it. There must have been something in there that said the following. Number one, we're going to get at least the same amount of views or more. I'm sure nowhere in that negotiation process was there a provision where the NBA goes, hey, you know what? There's a chance we may get less views, but we expect you to pay more. That's idiotic on its face, right? So just going through it, just walking ourselves through the process that way, it's easy to see that the NBA is in serious trouble. So anyone pointing to social media numbers, it's irrelevant. And I'll tell you why. LeBron James got 623 million views All right, 623 million views. That's 62,000, 622,000, 62 billion. Okay, divided by 82. That's about what? About 7 million. So that means that LeBron should be pulling in around what? 5 million views per game just for all of these views? Of course he's not. Of course he's not. These numbers don't really translate now, do they? How many people are following LeBron James on social media? A boatload of people. Does that translate to viewership? Of course it doesn't. The same way it doesn't translate if we have 200,000 subscribers on our show. Are 200,000 people going to watch every single show? No. If you have 100,000 followers on your Instagram and you put up a post, are 200,000 people going to like? No. So pointing to these numbers is pointless to me. But they somehow found a way to get it over these people over there at Amazon and these guys. So anyone telling you that it doesn't matter, it does matter. It does matter moving forward. The people that say it doesn't matter are just basically saying we've already secured it. We already got the deal. So there's nothing to worry about for the next 11 years. But if you look at the product itself, it is declining. And the numbers say that. And the reason why, again, viewership numbers are so important is because it contributes a mammoth amount of revenue, a mammoth amount in terms of portion to the overall revenue. Now, Adam Silver talking about, viewership we're hitting a high in terms of attendance is great. Viewership makes up about 40% of NBA revenue. Fantastic. But you're not going to be able to 3x your viewership. Why? Because the only way to 3x your viewership is to 3x the size of your stadiums, your arenas, which you're not going to be able to do, or 3x the prices, which you're for damn sure not going to be able to do. So how else are you going to do it? You're going to have to 3x it through your TV deals. So you pointing to attendance, when attendance in all likelihood may end up being 15 or 20% of the overall pie, it's irrelevant to me. And there's no way for you to 3x your attendance because you don't have big enough arenas. So to me, man, I think the NBA is in trouble. And these people talking about it, listen, look, before you start listening to people break this issue down, ask yourself, are these people intelligent enough to understand the issue to begin with before I start listening to them? That's very, very important. Now, I just gave you a very simplistic breakdown of it all, but I do think there's a problem. I think there's a problem because when you're underperforming for your number one sponsor or the people paying you the most money, you're in trouble. And you're just trying to console yourself by saying, oh, look, it's like us. If we got sponsors and we're supposed to give them 500,000 views, and I look at the end of the month, I'm like, Marco, man, we only got 200,000 views. And I'm like, yeah, this is terrible. And then somebody walks in, well, at least we got 1 million views on Instagram. It's like, are they paying us for Instagram? Well, just to keep the energy positive, you're going to throw that guy out the office. So these are the points. This is the point I'm trying to make. And by the way, we're going to be launching an exclusive Dreamers Pro community very, very soon. And if you want to be a part of it to ensure that you receive a one-time offer, please make sure you join the waiting list. We have over 300 people signed up already. So if you want to receive that one-time offer, only the people on the waiting list, please make sure you go ahead and do so.